Hello, I'm James, and I'm an old guy in Europe. Hello, and welcome to another episode of An Old Guy in Europe. Back in November of 2022, Carl Munson and I riff over a wide and varied range of topics on his Good Morning Portugal show, from being a fabulous cake to Movember Men's Mental Health Month to World Cup football, or soccer to some, the distinctions between the terms expat and immigrant, listening to understand, and more. So I once again invite you to please sit back, relax, and enjoy.
I felt like a tree as I swayed gently. How are you with your little ding at the end there, James, this morning?
Bolo Fabuloso.
What? Hola, bon dia. Alegria. Good morning. It's what I meant to say, of course.
Bolo Fabuloso.
Ah, sí, verdad. Et moi aussi. Oh, let me just chuck something else into the conversation.
I knew I could throw you with that one.
Yes, you did. And I'm pretending I'm acting nothing ever happened.
You said it yourself on Facebook yesterday.
Did I? Was I talking about Bolo?
Yes.
Talking a lot about Bolo.
I am a fabulous cake, you said.
I didn't, did I?
Yes.
Your
Saturdays, maybe it was Saturday, your Saturday soliloquy or whatever you called it.
Oh, okay. I see. Oh, dear, oh dear. Isn't that embarrassing when you forget what you
smacked you with your own words?
Exactly. Oh, I had it coming, didn't I? I had it coming. I'm having a look at these phrases. I'm having a look at
getting the community to help you with your Portuguese before we get together.
Yeah, I do. For that, I apologize. Basics here, the basic Portuguese greetings, and I'm going to share these as I scroll past the basics like bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, and even an oi and eu estou bem.
Como te chamas?
Como vai? Tudo bem? They're all good, and I'll put the link to them. But I'm looking for a little bit.
James.
Chamo-me James, sim. Chamo-me Carlos.
James.
Yes.
Como te chamas?
Como te chamas? And before that, I could have said, qual é o seu nome? And of course,
I can't understand Portuguese, much less your Portuguese. So you'll have to say it again.
Whether it's a Portuguese person or me saying it.
And it's a reminder to myself and to you and to all of us who are facing the challenge of learning a language. If, at least in my experience, my first thought is, I don't know what to say after I say hello. But if I pause and consider what things do I know how to say, then I can get 5 or 6 or 7 things that I could say after I say hello. What's your name? My name is, pleased to meet you. Things that I know, but I forget I know them after bon dia. It's like, what else? I don't know.
So what's been on your mind, mate?
As I understand it, November has been declared a month for men's health, like into perpetuity, right? So I don't think it was just last year, but nobody has said anything about it anywhere around me or near me. And being a man working in mental health, I particularly am aware of the mental health issues around or the general stereotyped male lack of pursuit of mental health support. It's based on the old, I can do it myself, I can do it all, and if I can't, then I'm a loser sort of mentality. So I just want to bring notice to that, and maybe recommend people just try talking something beyond, how are you? Something deeper, like what what are you creating for your life, or whatever. Just something a little deeper than hey. So that's my little bid for Movember. I don't need to go on deeply about it. Yeah. So
yes, and I'm reminded, James, that there was I think a British televisual first in this last week ahead of this, possibly Movember Men's Health International Men's Day. I think was coincided with the beginning of the World Cup, or certainly the launch weekend. I think this past weekend, and maybe that's an indication of how little care we give this, because I can't even remember. I don't really know. I think I just saw it flash past me on Facebook, on social media. However, last week a man had his testicles examined live on British television as a gesture towards what you're talking about, as men taking better care of their health and all of their bodily parts and their functional condition. I'll put it like that. I can think of better ways of having my testicles examined, if I'm honest, but probably better to do that live on British television than not at all. I don't know if you have a view on that.
It wouldn't make very interesting television for me, but no. As an educational tool, why not? It's actually very much like a breast exam. It's a fairly simple thing to do on your own. It's just a matter of doing it, but you have to do it with some regularity, at least monthly, because the whole notion is to catch any changes quickly. Exactly. Yes. And you won't know there's been a change if you haven't ever done it. So for me, it's just like, oh, it's the beginning of the month. I'm taking a shower, or check it out. It takes, I don't know, 15 seconds. It's like, oh, good. All right.
Yeah.
So everything's fine this month.
How are you feeling about the World Cup, James? Are you a soccer guy at all? Has it piqued your interest?
I have not been. I've been saying, well, I will tune into football, during the World Cup. So every 4 years, but then I look at the last World Cup I paid attention to, and that was 2006. So it's definitely, it's not been a big thing for me. It's something that I am intentionally getting more involved with, or learning more. I understand the sport okay, not all the nitty-gritty details. So I just haven't followed it ever. So the World Cup is certainly an opportunity to do that. And then I have some mixed feelings about the whole boycott and the illegality of gay relationships where it's being held. I understand all that. Yes. And so it's hard for me to get fully into it because of the venue, but I am curious, and I do want to follow Portugal at a minimum. I'm thinking that will be my compromise. I'll just follow the Portugal matches, and that way. Yeah.
Nice one. That'll be a win-win, I suspect. Pardon the thought.
I think as close as we can get to it. I mean, I certainly understand the argument to boycott. I also understand the argument that the boycott isn't going to really change anything. But for me, stating your position on something that's important to you is not as much about that statement changing something as raising awareness and potentially influencing people to think about it more. So in that regard, I totally support it.
Did you know, James, that the World Cup will be hosted by the Americas, as it were? I've probably put my foot in it by saying that, but the next World Cup will be hosted by the joint bid of Canada, America, and Mexico, with the bulk of the games
North America.
The North American World Cup, with the bulk of the games being played in America. And of course, for anyone pontificating from America, the next tournament will be the chance for North America to show how it's done, in terms of criticism of Qatar. So that will be very interesting to see how that is done in 2026, the North American World Cup there. How about that?
And that's an interesting mix of cultures.
Isn't it just
3 different cultures? Yeah, it's not just one. So,
and let's be celebrating those, shall we? You would have hoped that as well as paying the biggest amount to FIFA, there will be a chance to celebrate diversity of culture.
I have to say that's one of the things I love about the National Basketball Association, the NBA, is they take full advantage of their I'm going to say their powers, not so much power, but they speak on, they represent the entertainment of the sport in combination with statements about the politics. So the NBA boycotted national playoff in I think it was South Carolina, one of the southern states, because they had and I don't even remember the details, but it was some very oppressive law, probably racial, and they said if you're going to enforce that, we're not going to come play our playoffs there, and all the money that would have gone into it went somewhere else. Now, of course, that does affect the local people who are hoping to work and make an income. So there are people who aren't less, they're less financially, I don't know. Anyway, they don't have as much money, so they suffer. But the message is, and it did create change. They said, okay, from here on out, it's Charlotte, North Carolina, I guess. They said, okay, we need to do something about it. And the state actually did as a result of that action. So sometimes it does create the change, the boycott itself.
You're never going to know. We're never going to know, are we? Until
but
we
it's
try.
The money that talks. They lost a ton of money by losing that competition. And they said, we can't afford to do this. So we need to change.
Just ask FIFA. And anything in our modern lives, along with ego, this is the ego age and the money age, is it not? And you can say that money is a form of ego as well, couldn't you? In a capitalist society, boycotts are one of the few ways the individual can organize and exert power against capitalists. Thank you very much, Marcus. What an amazing conversation we've had this morning without anyone getting too eggy. Well done, everybody.
I used to tell my kids they vote with their money, you know, in terms of what music they buy, whatever. You're voting with your money.
Yes.
Yes. Well, and in communication in general, I have practiced and therefore pretty well integrated the use of phrases like "in my experience," "as I understand it," what I have read, you know, things about my personal experience, to share that without pointing a finger at someone else. Now, some people will use that in a passive aggressive way. Generally, when it's used with sarcasm, then it doesn't work. But if you're being genuine about it, then there's less to push back against. Like, okay, well, you've had that experience. And if I'm really open, then I say, what's your experience been? Yeah. And I try, you know, and that directs the conversation away from blame, accusation, you know, even passive aggressiveness. Because especially if I have a sincere interest in hearing what your experience has been, because then I might understand it better. I love Stephen Covey. I don't even remember the title of his book, but the one quote that I've taken from him that makes so much sense to me is he says, most people don't listen to understand, they listen to respond. And that is just a really good reminder for me anytime I'm really trying to have effective communication. Listen to understand.
Yes.
And
while you were saying that, I was thinking of how I might respond.
There you go. And it's kind of habitual, and part of some responses are defense. You know, it's like we're in a debate all the time. I have to address the other side. It's like, just try to understand it. And I've done it a few times and been sorely disappointed, because I've been trying to have a serious conversation with someone who represents an idea that just, you know, I just can't tolerate. But I said, all right, I want to hear, why do you believe this? And then they give me something like, well, it beats, you know, I just like poking a sleeping dog. And it's like, oh, well, that really didn't help me understand better why someone has that position. So
did you leave it there, or did you persist?
Yeah, I just said, well, I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense to me, and it's not consistent with my experience. But
you were able to go about your days without insulting or undermining each other, presumably.
Yeah.
Just, you know, it's still weird that I feel like I should congratulate you for that, because I don't see and hear that very often, James. Not from you.
Well, I have to be conscious about it. I have to make that choice consciously. If someone just catches me by surprise, you know, that's a stupid way of doing that. It's like, no, it's not. It's the best way, and your way sucks. You know, it's like, but if I've prepared, you know, if it's like, I want to have a constructive conversation about this, then I can put myself in that place and remind myself that I'm not here to argue. I'm here to listen and to understand, and hopefully I'll be given the same courtesy or maybe not even courtesy, hoping the other person will be just as interested in understanding me. You know, if not, then I don't hesitate to just call an end to the conversation. What I have learned in looking at the definition is that they're basically the same thing. Immigration and expatriation is basically moving away from a country to go live in another country long-term or permanently. That's essentially the foundation of both. So then the question for me becomes, why use one over the other? I'm perfectly happy being an immigrant. I'm proud to be an immigrant. So I don't claim expatriation. I don't call myself an expat, but I don't think that means everybody else has to do what I'm doing. For me, again, it's about awareness. For me, it's a choice that I make. And I tend to hear expat as having at least a slight sense of privilege or one up. Like an expat is better than an immigrant, just in terms of the language we use. And I don't see it that way. I don't hold it that way. So that's what I do. But if someone says, you know, I'm an expat from whatever country, and I go, oh, you need to change your language, right? I may hopefully, in the effort to influence, to say, well, I don't call myself an expat. I call myself an immigrant, and then explain that briefly to them. And they go, oh, okay. And that's another, in terms of the literal definition of expatriation, sometimes it includes abandoning the country that you came from. That's a part of the definition sometimes in expatriation that is not with immigration. Immigration is simply, I have moved from one place to take up a permanent residence elsewhere. So in some ways it's more accurate, but it's that part about abandoning your other country is more I don't want to say implied, but it can be included in the understanding if you're not clear about what you mean by it, where immigration is pretty clear, which is why I use that. I also don't call myself an American because I'm not in love with the United States, with the American, and American is a culture. It's a national identity and a culture. It's not an actual location. It's not a geographic location. Whereas the United States is about a country. It is the United States. And some of that goes to my awareness of arrogance. There's a North America, there's a United States of America, and part of North America is actually 3 countries. And then there's Central America and South America. So there's 3 identified Americas. So to say I'm American, you know, if I'm being educated about geography, like, well, which one? Are you from Canada, the United States, Mexico, any of the Central American countries, or perhaps South American country? Which America? So for both those reasons, I don't use American. I'm not particularly proud of coming from the United States. And it's a little more difficult to say I'm from the United States, but it's just as, if not more accurate.
It's about this thing about interference. Bloody well, let people be. If they're not causing you any problem and you're not causing them any problem, just let it go, let it be. But maybe that's just a bit too old-fashioned this morning. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, it's why ego to me is such a fundamental thing that deserves attention and management, because ego on a national level, ego on a religious level, there's ego everywhere, and it's just asserting that you need to do it my way, I'm the best, and if you're not doing it, you're wrong. That's a very strong ego position, and it exists everywhere, country to country, you know, nationalities, religions, personal taste, you know, orientation, usually sexual orientation, usually in one direction, you know, heterocentric, like this is the way it's supposed to be, which is founded, I believe, mostly in religious, people use religious context for that, but then other people say it's not actually ever stated that way or cited that way. So anyway, there's all kinds of argument that's just ego argument. It's not trying to understand. And letting people be. If you're not hurting anyone, why do we care? I want to say that when I talk about ego, I'm not using the Freudian sense of it. Freud had a very specific use of it that that I understand, but I use ego more in the Eastern thinking way of I use it as self-identity. It's how I identify who I am. It's the me and the I that I'm talking about when I talk about ego. Freud had the ego, id, and superego, and had certain specific applications of those things that are different than how I use it. But
all right.
Anyway, just to clarify that.
No, thank you for that clarification. I like how you do
say
Cool, mate.
As I'm learning a third language, which is called British English, every time I see the word jumper, it just makes me smile, because in American English, a jumper is a dress that a girl puts on, usually a young girl, that's all one dress pulled over the head and comes down. That's a jumper. So when these grown men are referring to wearing their jumpers to the party, it just creates a whole different image.
And can we expect a lot of Americans to be turning up then in jumper dresses?
I don't know. Hopefully they've translated and understand that we say sweatshirt.
I think it's worth going just to see if that happens. Americans, please play your
Yes, exactly.
Well, I'm going to play your theme tune again, mate, and thank you very much.
My pleasure. Bye, all.